Hello and welcome to the official YouTube channel for the California Society of CPAs. My name is David Lowe. I'm a senior program manager here at the Society, and I oversee all of our student and CPA candidate outreach activities. We thought it would be a good time to talk about New Year's resolutions for your career. And joining us today, we have Amber Setter with Amber Setter Coaching to share her insights. Now, Amber, before we turn our review, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice?
Yeah, thank you, David. And before I talk about myself, I just really want to thank you for asking me to contribute. It's wonderful that CalCPA provides its values to its student members. And I want to acknowledge the students who are watching this. You know, you're really being proactive with your leadership journey, and CalCPA has accelerated my life and my leadership, and I know it will do the same for all of you. So again, I'm an owner of a company called Amber Setter Coaching. I'm a professional coach. I started my career as an accountant, so I'm also an inactive CPA, and I've done a variety of roles in the accounting profession, including being a campus recruiter, managing learning and development, and got more and more specialized into professional coaching. So as a professional coach, I'm really helping people, kind of like New Year's resolutions, examining where are you today, where do you want to be in the future, and how do you design a path to get there? So that's what I do with lots of different CPAs in the profession, and I'm delighted to share some insights today with all of our student members.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Now, Amber, we're living obviously in a pandemic world, in a COVID-19 world, with so many variables out of our own control. How do you formulate resolutions when there's just so much that you don't have a handle on, whether it's lockdowns or job ebbs and flows in terms of demand? So how do you do that?
Yeah, it's a really great question, because we can all agree that 2020 has been filled with just lots and lots of disruption. And I feel like just when I feel like I've got a new cadence, there's like a new disruption, and that's more of the norm than anything. So before you really dive into what you want to create in the next year, what are your resolutions? What do you want for 2021? I would say the first place to really start is reflect on what you're taking out of 2020. So while it's been very challenging, I'd also offer that you probably learned a lot. There's probably been a lot of possibilities that have been revealed. So you might take some time to answer a few key questions. What did you learn in the past year? Maybe what surprised you the most? What was the smartest decision that you made? What are the gifts of the experience? I mean, for me, I was planning to enroll my daughter in a certain style of kindergarten, and that went away. And so a gift was I ended up enrolling her in a different educational school that works out really well for her. It's just one example. You might think, as an accountant, what do you need to do or say to sort of close the books on the year 2020? So again, first off, take time to reflect on how the year went, and then from that place, think about next, what do you want to create? When you get really taking that time to reflect on the past, then you're able to see what you have accomplished, because we've all been able to grow this year, right? We've all been challenged, but I would argue or suggest that we've all really grown. And then, what I'd have you start thinking about is looking at, well, what can you control? Because there's a lot of things in life that we can't control with COVID. We can't control when the school might go back to in-person or not, or what employers are going to do or not. But what you can control is your action and your reactions. So if I could make a single recommendation in terms of a resolution and an area to take on, is to really get practiced in understanding what do you need, and make it a daily practice, checking in. What do you need today, and not waste a lot of energy about the choices of other people or being judged for your actions. COVID in ways is really kind of like how you make an investment in your portfolio, like what's my level of risk tolerance? Is there something in my situation where someone in my family is high risk, and that means I'm not going to take a lot of risk and get out of my bubble? Or do I not have a lot of things, and what I really need today is to take the risk to go to a yoga class, because that would really serve me to go within. So I think that's an important piece. In a student perspective, you might look within your own self and say, hey, I'm really struggling like doing virtual learning. It doesn't work for me. But if I look inside what I need, is I need in person. One of the personal best decisions that I ever made was I went to 1 semester of college and then I took an entire year off to travel. And other people didn't think that was a very good idea. They thought I should keep proceeding through my academic classes and take them and finish in 4 years. Well, I didn't do that. I took a year off, I lived abroad, and I learned so much from that living abroad experience that I can't learn in a classroom environment. And it really matured me. And then by the time I was ready to do my classes, I had a much better idea of who I was and what I wanted. So again, take a chance, look within, understand what you need, and make decisions based off of what you need and your level of risk tolerance. So that would be my advice for designing the next year.
Amber, any advice on building a personal brand?
Yeah, so I would suggest that you be original, you be authentic, and you be visible. And notice I really said be, right? So as a coach, I'm always looking at how are we being? Who are we being when we're in action? So the qualities of being original, it means you're going to bring a unique perspective to the world. Being authentic to me means you're revealing a little bit about your heart, right? It's more than your intellect. It's you're opening yourself up more. So much of what I see on LinkedIn, and I know I do it too, but it lacks a lot of originality or authenticity. So I see a lot of people that go on there and they copy and paste articles, and it kind of bolsters their ego. It's a false sense of self, and it has them appear smart and professional. But it's also pretty boring. Like you just keep going through the thread, like, oh, copy and paste 2 sentences, copy and paste 2 sentences. And it doesn't stand out and make you unique in any such way. So as a coach, like I know people in business, we really need a lot of support. Even the highest level of leaders that I work with, they have fears and they have concerns. So being visible really connects to that authenticity of like, bringing something original. It has you being authentic and a little bit vulnerable. You also really want to let people see who you are from a qualitative and a quantitative perspective. So when you're authentic, you're really letting people see the whole part of you. That, really, what are you up to? What are you curious about? What are your questions that you might have? And you can create quantitatively more visibility by growing your network, doing things like you're already doing, being part of CalCPA and being active in CalCPA, being active in student organizations, whether it's an accounting society, Beta Alpha Psi, or something else on campus that you're really interested in, and having interactions with your prospective employers. So many years ago, I mentioned I was a campus recruiter. I interviewed hundreds of students. Well, now my network is filled, but those students are no longer students. They're the executives in the organizations. There's the partners in the firms. And I think when I was a student, like I didn't even realize like, oh, all these recruiters that I talked to, if I keep connections with them, or the partner that I interviewed, if I keep connections with them, they're part of my network, right? So you want to really start thinking now that just again, qualitatively setting yourself apart, but quantitatively building a strong rapport in the circles you're sort of already in today.
Now, Amber, how do you grow a personal network and make connections in this Zoom virtual environment, Google Hangouts? It seems like everyone's online and in front of a camera all the time, and behind cell phones and technology. How do you make connections in that kind of environment?
So hearing you share that, like the first thing that comes to mind is one of the real gifts, right? I mentioned earlier that even though it's been a challenging time, it's been a time of gifts. And what I've noticed is really like the boundaries have dissipated. And so I say that from a perspective of like, some of the firms that hire me to work with their professionals, I let them know, like, if you're ever looking to hire someone, let me know, because I know people, and location doesn't matter anymore. So that is a real benefit in this virtual environment, that someone can reach out. And now the technology and the infrastructure is that if someone's in California, they can talk to a prospective employer or a potential connection pretty much anywhere. We've all gotten hip and comfortable with online environments. So that is great. Another consideration that I think it's important for students to know is that it feels like either professionals in this new world have more time because maybe they don't have a commute, and that is, they've got this extra abundance of time. And so therefore, and I would say an abundance of time, and they're isolated at home. So they might be looking to have a real fruitful mentoring relationship. And in contrast, there's people like me. I have a daughter who's in kindergarten. So any parent with a child K through 12, they might not have a lot of time right now to do any mentoring, even though they love it. And so I share that because if you're a student and you're like, hey, I'm reaching out and this professional didn't get back to me, you think maybe they just don't like you or they're not interested. It's not that. We might just be maxed out and it's nothing about you, but I want to put that out there. Silence doesn't mean that, you're not a good person to be part of their network or to make a connection. Another thing to think about is, well, where could you look for good connections? And I would say solid places to look are in your university's alumni network, CalCPA, and LinkedIn. That's for me where I've found the most meaningful connections. And again, all of it can be done virtually. And when you're looking for people to connect with, really look for places that are going to be meaningful. So maybe whose profile evokes something in you? What piques your interest? Who can teach you something you really want to learn about? Maybe it's the style of the organization, the size, the work that they're up to. And as you answer those questions, when you make a request to connect with someone, share those reasons why, those unique reasons why. Your profile stood out to me because I'd love to learn more about X. I'm at a point where I never accept LinkedIn connections that come in with a blank, just I want to connect with you, or a generic message that I can tell has been copy and pasted, because it feels like they didn't really invest time into understanding, not who I am, because you don't need to know who I am, but how I can be of service to you. I'm really interested. And if I remember actually years ago, it's someone now that I'm on a CalCPA board with, Adam Blitz. He reached out to me through LinkedIn. I had never met him, and he said, hey, I'm a CPA who has a master's in leadership. And I thought I was the only one. I still remember those sentences like verbatim, right? This was years ago. Yeah. And he was such a great connection. And then I was like, Adam, you should do more in CalCPA, right? So those are the things that just really make you unique and really stick out. And I would say, this is, again, just be sensitive to time. If someone doesn't get back to you, they might just be overloaded, but some people might have a lot of time. And really, if you can write something, a message where they feel like, wow, this is someone I want to be connected with, or I could teach them. Professionals, we love to give back, especially people that are involved in CalCPA. We're service oriented. We want to be active. We want to support the future leaders of the profession.
And a quick shout out to Adam Blitz. Thank you for connecting with Amber, and hit that, if you're watching this video, hit that like button. So Amber, last question before we wrap up here. What is the best way to chart a path for growth and development in your career?
Well, I'm obviously very biased on this question, and I would suggest hiring a professional coach. It could be for your personal reasons, it could be for your professional reasons, but when I say professional, I mean someone who has earned the designation from the International Coach Federation. So not a lot of people understand coaching is a newer profession, but the CPA, right, you go to school, you do a rigorous exam, someone supervises your work, you have to get continuing education. And in the coaching world, they have that same thing. So there are lots of people out there saying that they're a coach, but they haven't necessarily done formal training. You don't know if their work has been supervised. And so that, I believe, is very critical, especially in times like this. So one of the things that's going on with COVID is a lot of anxiety, depression, mental health issues are coming up, and a trained professional coach can say, hey, what you really need right now is something else. You might need counseling or therapy. So I'm a strong advocate of a professional coach. And to be really honest, the way I got into coaching was I was kind of at a crossroads in my own career. I was like, I like what I'm doing, but I don't love what I'm doing, and I'm burned out, and what am I going to do? What's next for my life and my leadership and my career? And that's when I got really interested in coaching and just fell in love with it and started doing it and went to coach training. So now I get that when you're a student, you might not necessarily be able to afford hiring a professional coach, but what I want to just earmark is as soon as you can, hire a coach. And for me personally, in running my own practice, I have a graduated fee schedule because I want people earlier in their career to be able to afford professional coaching. And so if you can find a coach and work with them, great. But if you can't, then look for ways that you can create the experience for yourself. So what coaching is, and what people is a little misunderstood, is it's a co-created process. And when I coach a client, so imagine I was coaching you, David, I would assume that you, David, that you're the expert on your life, right? You know what keeps you up at night, you know your aspirations, you know the challenges of being a parent or a professional or whatever. My job is to help you have deeper awareness of those things. So part of like understanding where you're at is really kind of looking deeper at, okay, like what's really going on and where am I at, and creating that space. So if you're gonna, can't afford to hire a coach and you're a student, you're wanting to create a coaching experience, I would say find a way that you can quiet out all the external noise and really kind of look within of like, where am I at? What matters most to me? Where do I really see myself in a year from today or 3 years from today? Not necessarily what my parents think I should do or my professors. Good input, right? But not necessarily exactly what a person wants to do. Because a little bit of soul searching goes a long way before you set your goals. So sometimes clients come in, like I have a new client, they're like, oh, I'm really excited. Years ago I coached someone, oh, I want to pass the CPA exam, and she hired me to do that. And then it was like, actually I don't want to be a CPA. Okay, I want to go get my MBA. And then went through all the like GMAT application, accepted into multiple MBA programs. And I was like, I don't think I want to work in business anymore, right? So I've grown as a coach to really slow people down at the beginning to dive a little bit deeper sooner. Because once you know what you want and like truly you, not anyone else, then you can create a plan. And that's, the planning part is easy. You can take one of my CalCPA classes on goal setting if you want to do that. But I tell people a simple way to think of, setting goals is imagine you were training for a marathon. And even if you're not a runner, you can go Google how to a running plan. But what you do is you start with the end in mind, 26.2 miles, and you set incremental goals to get there. But the hardest part is deciding, do I want to run a marathon, half marathon? Do I want to do the Ironman? Do I hate running and I just want to meditate for 24 hours? You get to decide, but that's the hardest part. And I would say if really you're going to create a great solid path for your growth and development, that the place to start is to really look within. And the last part I'll put on that, just to sort of punctuate, is that I think it's important to stop yourself, maybe even like once a year, and saying, is the path I'm on, does it really source me? Does it really nourish me? Do I enjoy this? I think we have a little bit of a misnomer in our world where we say, you got to find your purpose. You got to find your purpose. And I tell people, think of your purpose in your career, not like you've got to figure out the end of the book, but maybe that it's a series of chapters in the book, right? You're building a story. And along these lines, I'll put in a resource that people could watch. I love Steve Jobs' commencement speech at Stanford that he did. And he said, you're going to look back on your life, you're going to see all these disparate little dots that don't really make a lot of sense. But as you look back, you see the connection. And one example from his own life, he, audited a calligraphy class. He didn't pay for it. He didn't get credit, or he paid a nominal amount, but he didn't get credit. He took calligraphy, and that changed the way word processing was from him taking a class. And that really changes every day, right? We're in a Word document changing our font. Like, it was a really pivotal thing, but it was something that was small for him that was meaningful in his contribution.
Well, Amber, thank you again so much for sharing your insights on New Year's resolutions. we hope to have you back on our YouTube channel soon. And thank you. Happy New Year, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, all the students. And if anyone ever wants to connect with me, you can follow me on Instagram, Amber Sutter Coaching, or through my website. And again, I teach classes for the CalCPA Education Foundation. And write me an original and authentic connection on LinkedIn, and I'll accept it.
Great. Thank you so much, Amber.
Thank you.